Yes, he did. Well, if you don't know what fair is, you can't make it look
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.
Time again for Donnybrook. Thanks for joining us. Too many topics this week, so let's talk to the panelists, meet them, and start our discussion, starting with Wendy Wiese from the Jennifer and Wendy Show on KTRS, Bill McClellan from the Post-Dispatch and STLtoday.com, Ray Hartmann, founder of the Riverfront Times, and you find his column on Substack, and from the St. Louis American, yesterday's birthday boy, Alvin Reid. Well, who are we going to start with? I guess this week it is you, Alvin. By the way, hope you had a wonderful birthday.
I'm the birthday guy, so yeah.
Well, since we, did you celebrate in any special way? Or
yesterday was production day for the newspaper, so I worked.
No rest for the wicked.
Sorry. But, yeah, Wednesday, it was about the paper. And,
well, since we met last week, unfortunately, tragically, someone else has died at the city jail. That's the 9th death in 2 years. We don't know the details of this one, but the Citizens Oversight Board said that they had been warning the city there could be trouble with this gentleman and they weren't allowed to get into the jail. One of the members of the board, Janice Mensah, was arrested this week when she was trying to get information about this death. And to date, the Citizens Oversight Board, which is supposed to see the operations of the jail, has not been able to tour the jail. So there are various groups which in the past had been aligned with the mayor, like Action St. Louis and Kayla Reid, Art City Defenders, the ACLU, and to some extent the president of the Board of Aldermen, who are now critical of the jail operations. Is this going to be a Waterloo for Mayor Tashara Jones? Has this issue gotten so bad that this could bring her down?
No, simply no. That's far from that. And then also, I think that we've conditioned ourselves to actually believe that all of the people that support us should agree with everything I do, and that's how we ended up in this mess that we are, like in the city and throughout the nation. I don't think there's anything wrong with somebody who supports me saying, like, Alvin, you're messing this up, but I don't think that that would lead to them not supporting me the next time I ran for office. Now, is the jail situation messed up? Absolutely. We've touched on that. I don't understand it. I think somebody needs to go. I think the mayor should just wash her hands of that mess and maybe even consider just closing that thing down.
Well, this is atrocious, and it's the mayor's fault. I mean, it was the lack of transparency. I mean, the problems in the jail, the locks and everything predated the mayor. But she was the one who wanted transparency in the jail, and now she won't, her people won't let the her oversight committee even into the jail.
Well, that's like Steve's. I'm sorry.
But I agree that it's not going to kill her. I mean, people reelected Kim Gardner, and I think that they'll reelect the mayor.
Yeah, her voters are loyal to the extreme, and definitely everybody believes that you have a tragic situation at the jail, but until I mean, you kind of wonder what it's going to take to turn things around. And like Sam Page, who promised transparency after Steve Stenger, Tashara, Mayor Jones has promised transparency and not delivered on that either. So I don't think anybody's surprised.
And the bigger issue to me, and I think this could be a big problem for her politically. I don't agree. Now, I don't think it's a Waterloo, and the election's, what, a couple years way off. So it's premature to say one way or the other what's going to happen. It would, I think we said it last week, it would be a big issue if the election was tomorrow. And the big issue here, obviously the situation's horrible in the jail, but it has been forever. What's unbelievable and really inexplicable is the hostility that the administration has to oversight. I mean, she ran on transparency, but I mean, they're not just not cooperative. They're still clinging, I think, to this argument that, well, the oversight people haven't been properly trained by the people they're supposed to oversee, and now they're arresting them. And I mean, this is not okay. They've got to start respecting the role of an oversight board.
Of all the people that you listed, okay, President of the Board of Aldermen, ACLU, our city defenders, name one that's not going to support the mayor when the election rolls
It's
around.
hard to say because she won one election. So she, without a record, you know, she was a treasurer and she, you know, made sure the parking meters were in great shape. And that, you know, is not the most complicated position. But then she ran for mayor on reforming the jail. She got support. If she's not going to reform the jail, why would you, as an Arch City defender, the ACLU, support her?
You want to bet dinner at a downtown restaurant?
Why not? I mean, because I like downtown restaurants. But no, you know, here's the thing. It's not just the jail. There's 911, a complete disaster, the potholes, not to mention other issues like city services. You call the Citizen Service Bureau and people don't answer. These are starting to add up.
Charlie, though, but before there's an election, the mayor still has a lot of money. The city has a pile of money, and it should spend it, and I suspect that before the election, it will be giving largesse here and money there.
To me, the concern I have about the jail isn't about politics in the next election. And as I say, who knows? But she would certainly be the favorite right now because we don't even know who would be running against her.
Kara Spencer.
Well, I do. Well, all right. Well, we don't know 2 years from now. Well, you know, this is way early. We're talking almost 2 years. Yeah, it is.
That's another bet for dinner. I'll take you to dinner from her.
I mean, she might change her mind.
Exactly.
But right now, she's running.
Well, but the point is, this is the problem with the oversight thing is a today substantive public safety problem, and it's easy for us to sit here and say, well, we got to do this, this, and this about the jail. Fixing the problem of not respecting an oversight board is not complicated. You just start respecting.
Ray, no offense, but we've been saying that for weeks, and you've been defending the mayor.
No, I haven't defended her on the oversight board. Are you kidding? No, I wrote about it.
But you've been saying that it's the fault of the city councilor. It's the fault of this person.
We've covered that. It's the city councilor who reports to the mayor.
Right.
This comes back to the mayor.
Right.
Was the person who went to the first oversight meetings and absolutely on behalf of the mayor refused to cooperate.
Who had the woman arrested? I mean, who called and said arrest this person?
Probably the administration.
But I just want to know who that was. Who said come get her arrested?
I wasn't another member of the oversight board.
Yes, I didn't either, and I would like to know who.
Because
it was either the sheriff's department or the SLMPD, right?
I would have to say yes, but who? I mean, I just don't. Look, you gotta leave. Is different than you're under arrest.
Okay, good point. Let's move on. Riverview Gardens, Wendy is hiring 26 international teachers to teach in this school, school district, which has the lowest test scores in the state of Missouri. The teachers are coming from the Philippines and East African nations and South Africa. The Washington Post did a look at international teachers going into troubled school districts and found that the cultural differences were so stark that it did not work. Is it going to work at Riverview Gardens?
Well, I mean, we can always hope for a positive outcome, but even before reading about that research and about those statistics, it seems clear to anybody who is familiar with the Philippines or some of these East African and West African nations that will be sending teachers into Riverview Gardens. These cultures are not the same as ours, but that wouldn't be the first time that cultures have been needed to mesh. But I do think in terms of discipline, it could be a real issue.
I think we need to not generalize about it. I mean, I just think let's see how it plays out. In other words, you get all the studies you want. Riverview doesn't have a lot of options, and I think it's very commendable that they're trying this one.
I agree.
And I know you're not saying, but I'm just saying that I just don't want to generalize beyond that until we see what this group of teachers does with that school district. And understand, everybody always talks like there's when you have a school district that for whatever reason has historically been troubled, there isn't a magic pill you can take. It's going to be, kind of one student one day at a time, and I think you just got to let the process.
But
no, I'm serious. You got to let it play out.
Are heavily
one day at a time.
Well, it is,
heavily
but it's
influenced by religion. They are largely patriarchal societies. So I'm just saying.
Okay, well,
it might not work, but like you say,
Gotta try.
You got to try something.
Agreed.
And all things, yeah.
Yeah,
and
maybe
literally
a
see what
couple of
sticks.
teachers will work.
Yeah.
And it'll be a little bit of a success.
Right, that's
right.
what I was going to say. But I said, like, all right, so they hired 20. If 4 work out,
Right.
that's 4 you didn't have. And then also, I mean, all right, the teachers that are coming are from, like, say, other nations. But if you've got a school where we're talking about, all right, we got discipline problems with black kids and low academic performance, okay? None of us are culturally prepared for that. I mean, who is? And the people that want to teach and who are entering these schools who are not from North County, are not from North St. Louis, are culturally different. So what makes us so different? Because we're just Americans? So I can't, maybe this will work.
It could.
and I know a few. I don't have a huge number of friends from Southeast Asia, but I've known different people, and they're not the same. I mean, they're very. When you know individuals, it's like anybody else. They're individuals. You can't just take everybody and say, well, they're from this area. And I'm not. I know you're not doing that, but I'm just saying, you can't just assume that because they're international or they come from a different culture, each one will be different.
Okay.
As you always say, don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good.
We'll find out. Hey, Bill McClellan, want to ask you, speaking of education, about the state of Missouri's Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, which is now looking for feedback on social emotional learning standards. This is, I guess the behaviors, the norms that one would have inside the classroom when it comes to behaviors and attitudes. Some people are saying, now that our test scores are lower than they were pre-pandemic, we should be concentrating on reading and math and not social emotional learning standards. What do you think?
Well, I think that the teacher should be in complete charge of the classroom, and if there's a disruptive student, the teacher should send that student to the principal, and if it happens again, the school should be able to suspend the kid. And if I were a district superintendent, I'd tell the lawyers, get ready, because we're not going to put up with this. But as far as what the state is doing now, I think I am against it, because I think that Dr. Margaret Vanderven, who are the head of DESE, is in favor of it. And it's one of my little barometers. If she's for something, I'm against it. And if she's against it, I'm for it. And I've been that way ever since she thought that Josh Renaud of the Post-Dispatch was a criminal because he called to tell them that one of their websites was exposing teachers' Social Security numbers. And the governor said, this is criminal. And I thought the governor's lack of knowledge about computers was kind of charming. But I'm assuming that Dr. Van Deven knows something about computers. But if the governor was mad, she was mad.
Yeah.
And she thought it was criminal. And ever since then, I thought, whatever she's for, I'll be against.
The reporter was a hero. I mean, that's the crazy thing is they didn't say that he had broken a few rules. He was a criminal when in fact he was a hero for calling it to their attention.
I'm just afraid that if the governor says tomorrow the earth is flat, that Dr. Van Deven will say, we're going to start teaching that.
Well,
so I'm against this because I think she's for it.
If you read the story, and we certainly all understand how important teacher retention is because you don't have any success with reading, writing, arithmetic without the teachers. But if the teachers can't control the classroom, then you have a problem. But throughout the story, and the talks of how they're trying to get to the bottom of it, it was about the students, the teachers and the students. And I thought, where are the parents? I mean, we're putting everything we're throwing everything into the laps of these teachers. We're not holding the children responsible, but where are the parents? That's what I don't understand. If a child is out of control, then the parents need to be called in. I just, that part of it, of the puzzle, I don't understand about modern life.
Well, part of it, the Secretary of Education was here on Wednesday, and he was at Compton Drew Middle School, and it came up, this subject came up briefly, I think, in a press conference afterwards, but as he was kind of pointing out, that part of this is, you know, if you're a student and you're living in a car because your parent got evicted, and, you know, or you're hungry because there's no food in the house or for whatever, you're dealing with where you just can't learn. So first of all, we got to address some issues before this kid can actually
I just
have
don't think
a
that's
pathway
a significant chunk of the kids that we're talking about.
I don't know, boy. I see. I don't know the exact number.
Right.
None of us do.
Right.
But it's a larger number than.
And we probably think.
Right. And that's the things that need to be addressed. Now, just flat out discipline problems. You gotta take control of that. And I agree. You know, I'm ready to lock them up if they miss too much school.
Y'all wanted to put the parents in jail last week. I think you're absolutely right that parents have got to be part of a solution. But, you know, there's a lot of, and Chris, I hate to argue with you when you've got one of your folk. How do you call it? Your little
Rant? Is that what you're
No, your little policies.
the little things to
That's
live
his
by.
personal policies.
It's hard. Of course, a lot of
makes
people.
life easier.
I run into a lot of people out in Donnybrook land that have that policy about me, so I understand how it goes. But I think that it seems to me I feel when maybe it's confirmation bias. Whenever I look at states and politicians getting involved, it almost always comes back to me to some level of disrespect for teachers and support for teachers, and always a solution around the teachers. I just wish we took better care of and paid vastly more our teachers.
Let me ask you this, Ray. Dean Plocher is the Speaker of the House in Jefferson City for the state of Missouri. I believe he's running for Secretary of State. I can't remember what statewide office he's thrown his hat in the ring for.
He's Lieutenant Governor.
Well, Lieutenant Governor? Okay, thank you.
I think it is.
Let me ask you about comments he made that were published in the Washington Examiner. He took a look at the upcoming legislative session for the General Assembly, and he said they're going to focus on two St. Louis issues. One is crime, and the other is the 1% earnings tax that all residents and workers in the city have to pay. What do you make of this?
Well, Dean Plocher used to be, it's sort of a version of the Eric Schmidt story where people across the aisle had great regard for him and his sort of moderation. And I think I could be wrong about that, but I think that's the office he's seeking. When it's so much a sign of our times, when Republicans want to run for statewide office, they move to the right. And in this case, moving to the right when it comes to the city of St. Louis, now that Kim Gardner's gone, is finding the next thing to make a St. Louis issue about. And not to bring that issue up, but now it's the earnings tax, which to me represents something like over a third of the budget for the city. And the idea, I happen to think we all pay it if we don't live in the county, working, you know, in the city. And I think it's a perfectly reasonable tax that people who use the services of the city pay for fire, police, and even if they're working remotely, too bad. You know, the fact is we have to support our city. Everybody talks about it. No one has any alternative in place to blowing it up. And here the Republicans are going to make this issue, and it's just it's disingenuous as it could be.
If I might jump in, even though I might agree with you to some extent on the earnings tax, it might go away because it's being litigated, and some court might say that if I'm spending the summer in Croatia, working by the Adriatic Sea, working remotely from a company in St. Louis, I don't have to pay for that 3-month period the earnings tax any more than the Cardinals have to pay if they play at Yankee Stadium or if they play at Fenway Park, and they don't. So if the courts are going to throw it out for remote workers, well, it could happen. Don't you think we should have that discussion now?
I would say yes, but the discussion should be how are we going to replace the money? And until somebody says how are we going to replace the money, no, Plocher just wants the whole place to go broke.
Well, I don't know if he said that.
Well, we still have,
You're
we're still not
attributing that to
addressing
him.
the ranch
Yeah, I am
money.
attributing that to him. If we called him up right now and asked him to explain the city earnings tax, I doubt he could do it.
Well, it's just 1%. I think you can do that.
Well, yeah, it's a good faith.
That's
we're
another
talking about,
dinner.
Charlie. You know, people have criticized the earnings tax forever, but nobody really comes up with, well, here's how to replace it. It's like when we had Senator Bill Eigel on, and he wants to get rid of personal property tax. Well, how do you replace it? Well, we're going to cut waste. You know, I mean, you know, if we're going to take a huge chunk out of the city's income, somebody has to say, and here's how it's replaced.
Well, I hope someone does cut waste every time I take a look at the loop trolley, Ray Hartmann.
Yeah, that's really
That's $52 million right there, and there's a lot of loop trolleys.
It's in the county.
Those are federal dollars.
If you want to cut waste, all right, waste of time and waste of energy, is the legislature saying, like, we're going to do something about crime in St. Louis? Okay, what you going to do? Right, come on. Call us.
They don't
Pump some more guns into the city.
like, wait, what?
They do think that's one of the, and that's the other thing. They want to talk about crime, but no gun. You know, we don't want to talk about taking guns off.
But I just don't. What is your plan? What is your plan?
They won't respect, whether it's Tashara Jones or whoever, they have no respect for city officials and even police as to the solutions.
Like, well, you said the oversight, that the whole jail oversight, same thing.
They have no respect for solution, the people in this town knowing what they ought to do about crime.
I just want to hear the plan.
I'm surprised none of you mentioned, for your argument, that voters vote on it every 5 years anyway, don't they?
Well, that
in
thanks
the
to
city of
Rex
St. Louis.
Singfield.
But the landscape has really changed since working remotely.
It has.
And crime and businesses moving out of this city of St. Louis. So it is
Well,
definitely.
it'll pass 84-16.
And I just want to say, let's talk about over 80%.
Alvin, Reid, you are or used to be in a previous life a member of the Kirkwood Parks and Recreation Commission, correct?
Yeah, board.
And as it turns out, you have dogs swimming in the Kirkwood outdoor pool this week, which is kind of fun for canine lovers, you know. But don't you think that St. Louis area pools like Clayton and Richmond Heights and Kirkwood and University City should be open in September, because Septembers are warmer now, and we should stay open like cities like Toronto, Canada, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Washington, D.C., Boulder, Colorado, and many other forward-looking cities?
All right, well, Boulder's got, you know, marijuana money just pouring in. But no, I mean, and plus we got two dog days now. We used to have one. I don't have a problem with it, because once, especially like teenagers and people who are lifeguards go back to school, now we're talking about additional expense. It costs money to keep it open another month. I think that's why they close when they do, and the fact that the dogs get 2 days to swim, I don't have a problem with that.
Right, and I think, Charlie, that I know you swim in the Clayton pool, and I think, and I'm sure that if you asked the Clayton mayor, she'd say, well, we just can't afford to keep this open
Just for Charlie Brennan.
So that a few people, lap swimmers, can have another month of it.
Well, what you could do is you could get the lap swimmers from University City and Maplewood and Kirkwood and choose a pool, maybe rotate on an annual basis, so that the athletic facilities, which are good for socially and physically, many benefits to swimming, of course, and we do actually have these in hot months.
For the next week, we're dipping into the 50s overnight, so you are almost a polar bear.
A swimmer doesn't mind that.
I'm with Charlie. I think.
Well, I know dogs don't mind it.
Don't interrupt this good old. Ray Hartmann's got a point to make.
I'm with Charlie. I mean, obviously everybody's got to decide for themselves, but I don't think there should be any automatic closure. I've always thought you could have pools open, and I think you should have them open.
How about the budget, Ray? I mean,
Yeah, we've got to.
Once again,
I said everybody can decide for themselves. Everybody doesn't have the same budget, and I think that it's a reasonable idea to keep them open. I also think it's keep them open for people too. You were talking about the. But no, I think that I think it's. I mean, I think on a city-by-city basis.
I will point out that Clayton has kept its pool open through September for the previous 15 or so years, so they're cutting back.
They're cutting back.
Yeah,
well, I mean, I can't argue because I don't know.
I think each city's got to decide for itself.
The thing is, do you want the region to be appealing to people who like the outdoors and who are active, who like the
think so.
active lifestyle? Is that some
I don't
person
think-
who
I don't
wants to come here?
I don't think people in Kirkwood care that the pool closes when it does and that the dogs swim
There
for a
are
couple
other
days.
ways to be active, right? I mean, you are active not just in the swimming lanes at the
Yes,
public pool.
but you know, September is the best month for swimming. Ask a lap swimmer.
What
for
is
example.
wrong? I look
Can't
at,
you swim indoors? I'm not being
Well,
sarcastic.
no,
about
it's a
this,
good question. But swimming indoors is about the same as like running indoors versus running outdoors.
I think
You know,
that's right.
Being outdoors is
All right.
a great benefit
Well, it's-
for many
why
reasons.
would you just be automatically against? I get each city can decide if it has budget problems, but I think the concept of it is seriously why would it be such a bad thing if someone
It's not a bad thing. It's a question of finance. I mean, like, should it
we be
stay
paying
open?
for-
I have a feeling Clayton could handle it.
I don't.
they're
I
cutting
can't
corners.
wait. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't think they would do it. I mean, Clayton is, I think, somewhat of an enlightened place, and the reason that it's not open is because they got money.
Well, Clayton did spend $1.5 million on a hockey
But wait,
rink that was never built.
Wait a minute. You all
for
didn't pay
plans.
to have your trash picked up for the last 75 years.
Well, now we
Cry
are.
me a river. Right. Yeah. Start paying for services, and then you'll probably have more services. Plus,
Well, no,
need
we
to-
are paying for services now. Starting next
That's
year.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, okay, just now
$50 a month.
starting. All right. And this, we need the dog from that commercial that says Vase on it.
All right. We have to wrap it up and find out what the viewers had to say about last week's program.
Vase.
I agree with the final comment made by Ray Hartmann that you would do the city of St. Louis and all of us longtime committed residents a great service by ceasing to endlessly whip up fears about crime in the city. That from Diana Gray of Lafayette Square. If you're looking for some place to have a delicious lunch downtown, I'd like to recommend Havana's Cuisine on Washington, just east of Tucker. You'll find the best authentic Cuban food you've ever had. That from Francie Futterman. Thank you. Jerry Curran of Florissant wrote, in reference to your segment on expired tags, I came across one so old it was in Roman numerals. Ba-doom. You can write us, care of 9 PBS, 63108. Don't forget to find us on X, and you can communicate there by using the hashtag Donnybrook. No, you can email us, Donnybrook, and you can find us on Thread, and you can call the 9 line, 314-512-9094. Listen to us on your favorite podcast source, Google, Spotify, TuneIn, and Google Play. Well, thank you very much for joining us. And to all you dogs, we hope you enjoy the Kirkwood Pool tonight. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week.
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9 PBS.